Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown. And today, just 2 weeks after she went missing, I'm going to be talking about Nicola Bulley, who went missing in the UK. She was last seen in this area of this bench, which is right next to a river. And they've been searching the river for 2 weeks and have not found her. And I'm going to go into, during the show, all the different theories. And I want to work through them as I would as a profiler, bring you along with me to help you understand the way it should be done and what is somebody working with the police, or if the detective is a profiler himself or herself, which basically all detectives are profilers, how they should be looking at this crime, how they might be looking at this crime behind the scenes. And of course, they know a lot more than we do. So I myself, being outside this particular crime, if we can call it a crime, or shall we say incident at this point, I don't have all the information they have. So again, I always point out, this is an educational channel. I'm not here to say this is exactly what happened because I'm not on the inside. I'm here to help you understand profiling and crime scene analysis and taking the evidence that we have from the outside and how we would go through that and just determine what's more likely we should look at, what are better leads, what are the percentages of the chances this could have been what happened, and when should we say, oh, no, that didn't happen, and when should we say, oh, that definitely did happen? When does that occur? So I'm going to go through all of that. So anyway, I want to welcome you to my channel, and this is a live show, so I have folks here in the chat room. I'm very glad you're here. We have Lisa S. We have Lisa N. Aunt Deanie is here. Cheryl is here. Scarlett is here. Fire Opal is here. I thought Fire Opal, you couldn't make it, but you're here. Midgie is here. Grandma Tat is here. Leslie is here. We have a good crew here. Sandra and many from the UK, which is pretty awesome. Let's see. Strega's here. Sandra's here. Mia's here. Erica is here. I'm trying to, Sandra, did I already say that? Mary is here. Anna's here. And Benny wishes he was here. Benny is my great patron from Denmark who has lots of good ideas. He actually sent over some of his thoughts on this case. So I might introduce them during parts of the show, because everyone here can do profiling. Maybe not professionally, but when we learn how to profile, we can profile in real life. And we do this all the time, actually, as human beings. We have to decide, what do we think happened? We have to decide, who do we trust? We have to say, who should I hang around? So people are in our lives. So we have to know how to deal with people. And the better we can understand people and their behaviors and their actions, if we can profile people and profile the evidence in our lives, we will do better. Before I go on, I do want to do my spiel for the channel. As I said, this is an educational channel. I try to veer away from gossip and a whole bunch of daily shows on a case where I just milking for money. But if you'd like to be in the chat room, please do join Patreon. The link is below. There are at least 8 live shows per month and other things that we do. And it's very cheap, but it does help support the channel, and it gets me patrons who I know are interested in profiling. And those are the people that are in the live chats. So you have a private place, in a sense, to communicate with the community and learn without having a huge amount of distraction. But you can also just subscribe to the channel. Please do that. That makes a huge difference in the algorithms and keeps me afloat. Subscribe, like the show, share in a true crime group. You can also support the channel by buying one of my books below or hitting the little $sign. Thank you very much for all that. Okay, let's get out of here. All right, back to the case in question. Okay, let me get comfy. All right, now let me do the quick Wikipedia, because there's some people here who have no idea about this case at all. So we want to find out a little bit about Nicola Bulley and who she is and what happened to her. All right. She was born in 1977. So what is it? She's in her 40s. She's an English woman who was last seen and heard from on 27 January 2023. In the area that she went missing, was in, it's a place called St. Michael's on Wyre. It's in Lancashire. Let's see if I can say that correctly. Lancashire, in the United Kingdom. All right. So let me tell you exactly what happened that day. Nicola drove from her home to the nearby village of St. Michael's on Wyre, where, after dropping off her children, she lived in a place called Inskip. She dropped off her children at school. She has a 44-year-old. Her partner is 44 years old, and she has 2 young daughters and a spring spaniel named Willow. She is also a mortgage advisor. That's her job. All right. So she dropped the children at school. Her partner was at home so he was there when she left, and there is evidence that he was there throughout the time she went missing. So that's one of the reasons he's not a suspect in this case. So then she dropped her children off at school, and then she went for a walk along the River Wyre with Willow the dog. Now, this was a normal thing for her to do. So this was not a new area for her. She did this all the time. There's 2 things about that are important. One is that she should know the area. 2, that this is a small village, so a lot of people know each other, and she ran into people she knew. And 3, if you walk it all the time, the other possibility is that other people see you walking there all the time, and they get to know who you are, and they can essentially find an interest in you for some reason or other. All right. So anyway, let me show you. First of all, let me tell you where I'm getting my information from, because I think that's important. And I'm going to put the links below so you can get your information from those places too. So these are ones I think have value. Okay. So the first one I got my information from was this one. Vanished. Where is Nicola Bulley? Okay. This is on Channel 5. It's a UK channel, and you can only access this if you're in the UK. This is a good show because it goes through a lot of the details, but it also has a very long interview with the partner. And I think that's important because I found some interesting things he said that struck me, shall we say. And I'll be introducing that information later in the show and explaining what I think it might mean and why it's important. All right. If you do not live in the UK, you might have a thing called a VPN, which is what I have. Because of this VPN, I am able to essentially lie that I'm in the UK. What you do is you connect, and then you go to the UK. I picked this particular location in the UK. And then I always say I never lie, but okay. Teeny bit here. All right. So I went to Channel 5, and they're like, okay, you can't view this unless you're in the UK and you have an account. So I have to put in the account, and then they ask you for a postcode. And I'm like, so then I just go over to Google and I Google postcodes in the UK, grab one, chuck it in the postcode. It works. And so I keep my VPN because a lot of times I do research that I can only access the information in different countries. Like I did a documentary that was Australian, and I couldn't access it here in the US. So my VPN got me to be able to view the documentary that was in Australia by moving my location to Australia, because that's how VPNs work. And also I happen to be a Death in Paradise fan, and I can't see the brand new shows unless I have VPN and can have my postcode in the UK. So there you go. But if you're in the UK, you can get the show. And if you're not, you have to have a VPN. All right. And then on this end of it, I thought there were a couple other useful things. This was sent to me, this link, and it was very, very useful. I think Carolina sent this to me, I believe. This is from the Mirror. They did just a short thing, live retracing Nicola Bulley's last known steps. I love this because when I did a little chat on my Hangout, I used this piece of crap, and I was trying to explain it while I was doing the Hangout, and I got myself confused. I'm like, what, where, what? And I couldn't understand it. It drove me nuts. So this takes you actually walking through the area, so you can see what it looks like, and you can see, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So I like that a lot. And the other 2 shows you might find interesting is this is Peter Hyatt. He's a statement analyst, and I have a great respect for Peter Hyatt. He did 2 of them. There's one, and there's a second one And they're good. He's always good. And I'm not going to say 100% agree because with everything he's ever said, and I'm sure he hasn't 100% agreed with everything I've said. That's okay. We're experts in our fields and we can respect each other and not always be, oh yeah, no questions. No. But that's what it's about. You learn from different people. They give you different points of view. I like Peter Hyatt a lot. And so he did some statement analysis on the partner, and he came back that he was not deceptive. I agree with him. He's not deceptive in his statements. However, I do think he's given some interesting information in those statements. And I want to address that later in the show when I'm talking about the different theories and what I got from some of his statements. So hang in there for that. All right. So that's what I watched. All right. So now let's just take a look. I'm just going to show you quickly the walkthrough, and then I'm going to go to the actual time frame, and then we'll go to the theories. Okay. So here's kind of the walkthrough. So, this is the path she walks down. It's an interesting path. Some of it's like very narrow with fencing, and then it sometimes goes into bigger areas. Now here you see this is the River Wyre, and this happens to be a bridge area here. This is not where the bench is. That her phone. Oh, by the way, let me just read what happened, just because I forgot to finish that part. Essentially, I'm going to get into all the details of what happened from the time she dropped her children off to the time she disappeared. But at the end of when she disappeared, which was 9:33 in the morning, I remember she dropped her kids off at let's see. Doesn't say. What? How useful. Anyway, thank you, Wikipedia. I'll go through all the details. It's going to be in the pictures that I show. But at 9:33, that's when a passerby discovered Bulley's mobile phone still connected to the ended call on the bench. And her dog was there along with a harness on the ground. Okay? So I just want to show you the area so she can get a feel for it first. So, okay, so now she's walking along this place. Here is the bench. There's actually kind of like, before she gets to the bench, as she walks down the kind of narrow path there, there's actually like a gate area. And you kind of open up the gate and go through it. I'm not sure what that's there for, but maybe just to, I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe to keep vehicles out or something. Anyway, this is the actual bench where her phone was found. The harness for the dog was found, as the partner says, and other people in the UK say, on the floor. That is not a U.S. terminology. So I do not know whether it actually means the ground or that pavement underneath the bench. And there was another person that said halfway down the embankment. So I'm like, which one is it? And I actually don't have that information. I looked for it and didn't find it. Maybe my failure in researching. But anyway, that's the bench. This bench is next to this location, which there's the river. And it looks from this angle that the embankment is very it's very like you could basically just walk down and put your hand in the water. Apparently, according to those who know the area, it's actually there's a drop off there, a fairly steep drop off. So if you got too close, you could actually fall over into the river as opposed to sliding down, which would be why you would have, if she fell into the river or was pushed into the river, or chose to go into the river, you might not have evidence from her boots on the ground. All right. Then after that bench part, she actually walked past the bench. She went to the bench. She made some phone calls, and I'm going to do that specifically in a minute with photos. Then she would walk on. There's this little, whatever that thing is. I'm assuming it's some kind of, I don't know, utility thing or something. I'm assuming it's also locked. I'm sure they checked that out. Some little teeny building. And then she walks past that. And then there's these places where there's fields. There's a lower field and an upper field. I will show you a diagram of that. And this is where she let the dog off the leash, essentially. Although, I guess say off the leash, but I'm not quite sure, I'm not a dog person. So she's got, the harness that was found on the ground. I don't understand. Maybe you all can tell me this. I don't understand why the harness was found on the ground. I always thought when you let a dog off the leash, the harness stayed on the dog. So I don't quite get that, unless she just wanted the dog to feel happy and free and naked or something. But anyway, she that she would let the dog off the leash and the doggy could run around the field happily as long as it didn't attack other people. So that's what she did. And this is there were 2 fields. She was seen in different fields. Now, all right, let me go and explain the exact time frame, because if you don't know that, it's hard to understand. Before I do that, I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to put the picture behind me of the general area, because this is a cool picture, not like the crappy one I had before. Okay, so here we are. This is the town of St. Michael's on Wyre. This is the towpath. So she parks at the school, and then she goes walking down here. Now, this is the bench where her belongings, that's the cell phone and the harness, were found. And then there's this area. You see this area here? This is called the lower field. This is called the upper field. This is the area that once she reached this point, she walked down here. She saw somebody knew her here and somebody knew her here, and they saw her. Witness and witness. Last sighting being here. And then supposedly she came back this way. I want to point this out just to show you the general area and how close it was to any roads or not close to any roads, that you have quite a distance from this spot to anything that looks like a road to me. Okay. There is an abandoned house here. It's across the river. There's a town up here, but you have to get to it somehow, which is quite a walk. And if you're over here in the field, you can see some housing behind here. You could walk that way perhaps, but she was last, her belongings were last here. So we have to look at that when we're talking about what could have happened to her if she didn't go into the drink. She would go one of these other ways. Okay, I'm going to leave that picture behind me as I show you the day. All right. Now, at 8:40 a.m., she dropped her children off at the school at St. Michael's on Wyre CE Primary School. She spoke with another parent. So we have evidence at 8:40 a.m. she was alive and well. Now, you see the white line. That's where she's walking along the path toward the bench and into the lower field. This is 8:43. Now, that white line, where it ends, keep your eye on where it ends, because I was quite confused about where exactly the bench was. But at the end of that white line is exactly where the bench is. Okay, so the bench is near the river, but it's also near the fields. Okay, so that's where she was at 8:43. Now, let's go further. At 8:47, now we're talking 4 minutes later, a dog walker sees Nicola with her dog. That's the lower field. Okay, I'm not sure why it's called lower field and upper field, but okay, lower field there. So that's where the dog walker saw her with her dog at 8:47. Then at 8:53, she sent an email to her boss. So we know she's alive at 8:53. Then at 8:59, six minutes later, she sends a message to a friend. So apparently she's in this area. We don't know if she's actually at the bench or she's wandering around the lower field with the dog or letting the dog off the leash here, but she sent two emails. So she's alive at 8:59 a.m. Then she logs on at 9:01 to a team call. And I wondered about this thing. She's logged on, but people say she wasn't necessarily, nobody saw her. So it's not like, you know how you got in the team calls, sometimes you have everybody's got a photo there. A video of them in a different square. And she could be sitting on that bench with a dog next to her, but her, video of her face, and she could be participating. People say that really wasn't what happened. She just logged on and was, paying attention to it, but she wasn't visible. That's what I hear. All right, so that's 9:01. Now, 9:10. So 10 minutes after she's logged onto that call, she's now seen in the upper field with her dog. Now, you might ask, who are these people that saw her, the witnesses? Did they really see her? And the answer to that is yes. They were people who actually knew Nicola, which is important because there's so many times, I saw that person. They didn't see that person. But these people actually knew her and they knew her dog. So I'm going to say pretty accurate. So the last sighting of her was the second witness over here. Okay, now let's go on. Now, let's see. Let me go back here a second. So 9:10, she's seen in that upper field by a real witness who sees Nicola. And then at 9:20, it says here the phone is back in the area of the bench. Now, I'm not sure how that's incredibly accurate if they can know it's exactly at the bench. And I don't quite understand that, because I know there's these cell towers and they triangulate and all that, but to that level of knowing that exact spot, I don't know. If the technology proved that, that's great. I just want to know if the technology really had it like literally on the bench, or whether they're just guessing that the phone was back on the bench at that point. Anyway, 9:20, the phone is back in the area of the bench. Well, area, I don't know how big the area is that they're claiming. Anyway, that's that spot, that little circle. What I told you before, that's where the white line ended. That's where she's at, that bench. Now, that's 9:20. At 9:30, the team call ended, but she stayed logged on, which is interesting to me. Okay, so we go back here. She's seen at 9:10 with her dog. Now at 9:20, the phone's back there. One would assume, and I say assume with those quotes, that if somebody saw her at the upper field and she had her phone and her dog, that she had to walk back to the bench. And therefore at 9:20, she was at the bench with the phone and the dog. 9:20. Okay, so now 9:30, 10 minutes later, the team's call ended, but she stayed logged on. And the question is, why would she still be logged on when it ended? What happened from 9:20 to 9:30 is the question we all ask. Then at 9:33, just 3 minutes later, the mobile phone and Willow are found at the bench, and she's not there. So we have a period of time. The last sighting up here, hold on, let me go back to it again. No, sorry, one more back. Sorry, I'm sorry, wrong place, hold on. Okay, there we go. At 9:10 is the last time she's seen, but yet the phone is found here at 9:20. So one does assume she walked back. And then at 9:33, that's when the phone is found. So I say, they say there's a 10-minute window. I say there's a 13-minute window where she's back at the bench with the phone and the dog. And then at 9:33, 13 minutes later, she's missing. What happened during those 13 minutes? Okay, so that's where we're at. And then just to add this in, because somebody found the phone and the dog, the school was notified just 12 minutes later, and the partner was notified at 10:45, and then by 11, the police were called. Okay, so that's the setup for just what happened. Now there's 13 minutes unaccounted for, during which time she disappeared. Okay. That's not much time, and it's in an odd location. And this is what we're going to examine when we look at what could have happened. Was it a homicide on the spot? Was it a suicide? Was it an abduction? Was it an accident? Was it a woman gone missing on her own accord? We got basically 5 things that could happen there. Which one is it? Looking at the time frame and the area that this happened in. What is most probable? And it doesn't even always matter what's most probable, because you have to be very careful when you're profiling, you're analyzing a case, when you're a detective on a case. Probability might say, we got to put extra effort here. But if there's a 20% chance that something else happened, you can't ignore that. So you don't want to get tunnel vision on the super probable and just completely ignore less probable, but not impossible. So we're going to be looking at that. So now I'm going to get into the different theories and what I've learned from what the partner said in his statements in this particular case. So before I go there, I'm going to just check in on your comments. Okay. So there's a lot of hellos here. Okay, let me go down to the bottom. So we have some commentary on this is an interesting point. Grandma Tad says, I've stopped walking at the same time en route. Sometimes that is what is important when you talk about somebody possibly stalking. If you have a regular routine, it's obvious, and they can see you all the time and say, oh, this is when this person is here. So that is important when you're looking at the possibility of abduction, some kind of stalker thing. That's important. This is during the day, so it's very unusual time for anybody in an area which has obviously a lot of people. So this is important too. If you're going to abduct somebody, Usually you pick dawn or dusk. You also pick isolated locations. And here we have a place where she ran into two friends while she was walking in a very short period of time. People with dogs and other witnesses. And it's a little odd of a location for anybody to think that's a great place to abduct somebody. So, it's okay, Pat. VPN is there for a reason. VPN, generally speaking, is to protect you from, it blocks people from being able to come in and steal your data, to steal your money out of the bank. It's actually a safety precaution, but it has other uses, let me tell you, especially when you need to do research in other locations where they block the information from going to other regions, which drives me nuts. Like, I don't understand why I can't see the Channel 5 show if I don't live in the UK. But that's the way it works. So yeah, VPN is useful for a profiler. Let me say that. I won't tell Pat. Thank you. Nobody will know. Okay, I'm ruining my reputation here. Okay. What? On the floor is just on the frowned? Okay, now that's another word I don't know. What the heck is a frowned? Okay, that just really, Mia says, steep bank, easy to imagine losing footing. But there's a claim that's not a steep bank. That's like more of a drop off. And that's another question. I haven't actually gotten to see, one of the things they didn't do, which I wish they had, was walk over to the bank and let me see whether it goes down and you would slide or whether you just drop off. I don't have that information. All right. Yeah, this is true, Fire Opal. This depends on whether you can drop off. Then indeed you would not have any skid footprints. That is true. And if you didn't expect to go off the cliff, if it's kind of a cliffy thing, like somebody did one of those numbers, you wouldn't have any kind of signs of anybody struggling to keep their footing or anything. The person would just pitch off. We're going to talk about that in a bit. All right. Let's see. I do not know Grandma Tat, and I wish I did. Is this after the harness was removed or after this person saw her? I don't know when exactly. I don't understand the harness thing. I really don't. I'm not a dog person, but I do not understand why the harness was off of the dog to begin with. I would think you just take the leash off and let the doggy run around and put the leash back on. I don't understand why you take the harness off. Don't understand it. So, and I don't understand exactly when the harness was off the dog either. And was she trying to put the harness back on the dog? She got back to one of the theories, of course, is that she came back to the bench, was listening to the rest of her meeting, Zoom meeting or whatever. And then she was trying to get the harness back onto the dog. And the doggy took a little run and then she dropped the harness and went after the dog and then fell into the river. That's the number one theory. So let's go to that. All right. Antini, before I go to the theories, perhaps she was distracted by the call and messages and lost sight of her dog. Could she have panicked and ran quickly, slipping down the hill? Again, I don't know how slippery it was. I don't know how much of a hill it was or whether it's a complete drop off. But yes, I mean, you're mixing a bunch of things together. And when you do that, things can happen. And stupid crap can happen. And stupid crap is something I want people to understand. This is a very, very professional word, stupid crap. Have you ever been somewhere and stupid crap happened and you think, who would think? Stupid crap. Like you're in a car and you did some stupid crap and then something happened or whatever. The other day, I'm going to tell you some stupid crap. Okay, so the other day, I'm trying to downsize. So I'm in my bedroom and I'm taking all the stuff out of the different, all out of the cabinet and the drawers. And I've got these boxes and I'm putting things in and throwing things away. Got my trash bag. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I tell myself, because I say this when you reach a certain age, and okay, I don't really feel like that certain age, but because I'm very active physically and I don't have any physical problems at the moment. That is wood. But they always say the one thing you don't want to do is fall. When you're a certain age, do not fall. So I'm ready to go to bed. And I got these things around the bedroom, right? Like boxes, like in the way of the door. And I say to myself, don't be stupid. Move the boxes before you go to bed, because if you get up in the night to go to the bathroom, you'll trip over the boxes. So I did stupid shit. I didn't move the boxes. I get up in the night. I walk toward the bathroom. I step in one of the stupid boxes. I go crashing down. I crash into a wall, smash into a door. I'm lying on the floor and I'm like, geez, why did I not move the boxes? I told myself to move the boxes. And I had a big bruise on my leg and I twisted my back slightly. I was pretty good. For falling, everything went well. A couple days later, I was playing table tennis. So all is good. But that was stupid shit. And somebody might say, if this happened, they go, well, Pat Brown wouldn't leave stuff in the way between her bedroom and her bathroom. She's smarter than that. Apparently not. I'm not so smart. All right. We do stupid shit. She could have done stupid shit. So that is a professional terminology, stupid shit. Okay. Now let's go to the theories. The first one, we got 5. I'm going to stick with 5. Let's go. She fell into the river by accident, chasing the dog or whatever happened. She was pushed into the river by a crazy person. All right. And that would be homicide. She was abducted from that location, one way or the other. She was abducted. And then there is, I've got 5, didn't I? Oh, suicide. Suicide that she's just done with life. She's done. She's just chosen the river as a means of suicide. And the last one would be she ran off, a Sherry Papini. And if you're not from the United States and don't know who Sherry Papini is, Sherry Papini was a woman with children that everybody said was wonderful and great and fantastic. And then she disappeared on her jog. Was it a jog or was she bicycling? What was she doing? She was jogging. She disappeared. She reappears like 3 weeks later. She's got restraints on her. She said captors had kept her for 3 weeks and threw her out of her car. And I always said that was fake. I knew from the beginning it was a hoax because a certain piece of evidence. People got really mad with me. Turned out it was a hoax, and now she's in prison. So, attractive woman, husband believed in her, kids. She was a great mom. Blah 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 blah. So, is it possible she did a Sherry Papini? That's on the list. So we got 5 possibilities. All right. Let me start with falling into the river, because the police, that's their number one belief. She fell into the river by accident. And I will say, so we're going to look at what is very likely and what the things that kind of bother you about it. Because if you're going to examine anything, you have to be willing to do this. All right. The location, she only had 13 minutes that she went missing. As I pointed out, it's a very empty location as far as things nearby. No, there's no way for cars to drive in. She was just seen by 2 people. She's at a bench right next to the river, and she goes missing. And the dog is off the harness, off the leash. Could the dog have run and she chased it, and whatever reason lost her balance and fell over into the river? Okay. They've searched for 2 weeks at that river. So to me, the possibility of her having an accident, just falling off the stupid whatever, whether she slipped or she just pitched off the little cliff thing there, because I don't quite understand exactly what it looked like, is very reasonable. Now, let me talk about her clothing before I go on. When I was doing the hangout and talking about this case, one of the things that, let me say this is what they said she was wearing. Hold on a second. Okay. They said she was wearing, I want to get the proper thing here. This is what they told me she was wearing. Well, many sites said this. She was wearing it quilted. And quilted was interesting to me because quilted could suck in a lot of water and then weigh her down. Ankle length gilet. Ankle length. And that means it's very long. And usually the long ones are very flowing too, because they're really pretty. They they flow out a lot of times. And then I wondered, I don't know how things would work. So I would like to buy that same gilet, put it and see what it would do in the water. Would it soak so much water into it because it's got all that quilted area that they just suck her straight down to the bottom of the river? Or would it float up, like the ends they float up like this because it's ankle length, and they would float up, and you should be able to see the stupid gilet in the river. Ankle length gilet. All right, I want to show you a picture of what she's actually wearing. And I did not have this picture prior to the recent show. All right, I don't know what they think ankle length is, but I don't see any ankle length gilet there at all. I see her ankles perfectly fine, and I see her calves perfectly fine. That's just below the knee length gilet. This is why you can't believe the media all the time. They say crap, and then you go back and find later that there's almost a 2-foot difference between how long that particular outfit is. And does that make a difference? It can. It can make a difference. And so unless you're the police and you know exactly what she wore, and you saw the CCTV thing like here showing exactly what she was wearing, she's got apparently the wellies are correct. What? She's also wearing, this also says she's also wearing ankle life Wellingtons. Okay, those are ankle, they go up to her ankle. One would assume they could fill with water. That is true. So she goes in the river, they can fill up with water and again, drag you down. So all the clothing is heavy, particularly on someone who's a slight build and only 5'3". She's supposed to have a quilted ankle length gilet, which is not true, just below the knee, which is a big coat. And underneath there was another coat. And underneath that coat, more clothing. So she layered. And if she layered, yes, I'm going to say it's entirely possible that if she fell in, that the weight of filling up with water could have weighted her down, so she just couldn't make it, and she went under. And who knows? Also, I want to point out this: people always assume when you fall in, you're like, and you fall into the water like with your butt, and you go, oh, like this. No. What about if you fall in and your face goes under the water and you swallow a whole crap load of water? And before you know it, you're already choking. And that can happen very quickly. And you're choking and you can't breathe, and then you sink because within seconds you're done. So even if you can swim, and even if it's not that deep, because you already have water going in and you're choking, you can't breathe. You just go under, especially if you've got weight on you. So is that very likely? The answer to that is yes. Now, they said it was about waist deep at that location where the bench was. But again, if you're pulled under, waist deep can drown you. Kind of like what you find out with a child. You put a child in a bathtub, it's got like this much water, the child falls over and drowns. It's not that the child couldn't have stood up in the water, but it's like when the child slipped and went under the water, it started choking, and that was the end of it. The face was under the water. So she could have been under the water, even if it's only waist deep, and couldn't get back up. Now, so is drowning possible? Absolutely. Now, I was just sent this wonderful email. Hold on one second. What am I doing? Hold on a second. This email came, Fire Opal. Thank you, Fire Opal. Fire Opal sent she sent me an email with this really good article. Now, this is really useful for people to understand how a river would work if you just drowned. A guy named, this happened in Lancashire as well, 45 years ago, also in the River Wyre. All right. Roger Jones, 16, was swept away in a fast-flowing brook, which fed into the Wyre just yards upstream where Ms. Bulley's mobile phone was found. All right. So what happened was he was a student. He was on a motorcycle. He crashed, and his body catapulted into the stream. Now, mind you, a fast-flowing stream, and when he was catapulted, again, water goes into your face, into your mouth, into your lungs, and you start choking and you can't breathe, and you're also in a fast-flowing stream. Sometimes your chances of survival are very poor. And his body washed up. It wasn't discovered for 2 months. His body washed up on a sandbank at low tide near to the Shard Bridge, 7 miles from St. Michael's. In a desperate search to find Ms. Bulley, this family shared the harrowing memories of losing their youngest of 3 sons more than 40 years ago. All right, now what happened exactly? Okay, let me tell you what happened exactly. Roger had been returning home one night on his friend's motorcycle, and they crashed into a car on a narrow bridge near Preston. The bike rider was badly injured and unconscious when emergency services arrived and was unable to tell them if he had a passenger. It was 3 a.m. before police were alerted that someone was missing. And officers returned to the bridge that was over a fast-flowing stream in a flood. So one of the questions about this entire river thing is, right when she went missing, supposedly there actually had been a lot of rain, so that was actually faster flowing than it is right now. When I look at that river, I'm like, man, that thing's not moving. I could throw a stick in there and watch it for 20 minutes and it wouldn't move. It looks like it's not doing anything, but that doesn't mean that day it wasn't doing anything. So they found one of Roger's gloves on the banking, but there was no trace of the teenager. Wish they had found something from Nicola. Okay. A huge search of the countryside downstream was launched, involving dog handlers, mounted police, and divers to scour the river. Now, this is 40 years ago. Better crap today. So they have sonar and all kinds of stuff today, and they have not found her. But they also worked very hard back then, and they did not find, they finally gave up. By the time he was found, we'd already come to the conclusion that he was in the river, but it was a case of waiting until inevitably he showed up again. His body was found, finally. So it says here, I think the river conditions were pretty similar when Roger went missing, and he was obviously swept over the something or other. That is a word I don't know. I'm not going to go there because I can't pronounce it. And into the tidal part of the river. He was found near Shard Bridge, which is a fair distance from St. Michael's. So there we go. Is it possible she fell into the river? Again, even if it's only waist deep, that she just got too much water into her too quickly, and her clothes weighted her down, and it just simply, she started going down the river. By the time they actually investigated, she was farther down the river than they thought. So they start at the bench looking, but by that time, a lot of time has passed, and she's moving down the river, perhaps underneath. I don't know. I'm not a river expert. Okay, so that's the number one theory. That's the police theory. They believe that entirely. However, if you watch the interview of her partner, he doesn't go for that at all. He is not happy about that whatsoever. All right. So let me go to her name. The name of her partner, by the way, is Paul Ansel. He said, whatever has happened in my eyes has to be somebody who knows the local area, who knows that. And the fact that nothing's been seen or heard, I truly believe it's something in the village. He doesn't buy the water that she drowned in the river. And I want to point out in our comments, I thought it was a very good comment, by the way. Okay, let me go back up here to find my comment from, okay, it was Strega. You made the comment. Was it Strega? Okay, I got to go up here a ways. Hold on a second. The consideration where when she goes into the river, there's 3 reasons she would go into the river. Okay, let's go with the 3 reasons. 1, accident, which is the most likely. Second one would be suicide. Okay, I'm going to stop with that for a second. Suicide. It's a crappy way to commit suicide. There's a lot of easier ways. Throwing yourself into a river where you don't actually know you're going to drown sucks. You also don't know whether you're going to drown quickly or whether you're just going to flop around in the river. However, you could say a person committed suicide that way because then they would think it's an accident, and the family would be able to collect the insurance that it wasn't a suicide. Okay, that's a reasonable thing to think. Also, then people will say, along with a crappy way to kill yourself, the insurance thing is plausible, but it's a crappy way to commit suicide. But then the second thing they're going to say is, who would do that? She was a happy person. Everybody said, and this is true. If you watch the interviews, the husband said they had a happy relationship. All her friends say she was a happy human being, and the family says she's a happy human being. Nobody has anything to say about it that's negative. And just to be fair, because this is where we have this problem of making assumptions when maybe it's not so. Now, I don't know how familiar anybody is, again, outside the United States about who this is. The gentleman here in the picture is Stephen Twitch Boss. His nickname is Twitch. He was on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and he and his wife, I think they've been married for quite a while. They just celebrated their anniversary. He was a well-loved presenter on Ellen DeGeneres. And they also had their own YouTube channel. They danced all the time. They met on Dancing with the Stars. They were the happiest, funniest, friendliest couple you've ever seen. The children used to dance with them. Everybody adored Twitch. adored him. And I actually didn't even know who he was until he committed suicide. And I'm like, who the hell's that guy? And then I looked him up because I'm not a TV watcher. And I fell in love with the guy. I'm like, oh my God, he's fantastic. Look how happy and wonderful he is. And how much joy he brings everybody and his family and the people watching him. One day, he gets up, walks out of the house, and goes to a motel and shoots himself in the head. Wife says she has no clue. Nobody has any clue. He had no physical problems. He was rich as crap. He had no money problems. Everybody said he was the happiest person that bring the most sun into everyone's life. What the heck? Nobody knows. And it's still driving everybody crazy to this day. It's like, why would he do this? He seemed so happy. I do not know why Twitch killed himself. So keeping that in mind, you always have to say, just because everybody says doesn't mean it's so. And if you're a police investigator or a profiler, you can take everything everybody says into account, but then you have to question, does everybody know everything? And Twitch is a great example of this. So could she have thrown herself in to commit suicide in a river? Probably not. I'm not big on that theory. I think it's kind of stupid. But could she have? If she really liked to die in a really terrible way and really have to work at it, yeah, I don't believe that's true. I think that is a very teeny theory, but I just wanted to point it out. You got to consider it. The third one for going at the river was just mentioned by. Let me go back to our comments here. Because I think it was a great comment. Hold on a second. It was a mean old lady comment. Hold on a second. Let me find it. It was way back up here earlier in the show, like right at the beginning of the show. Okay. Okay. Where's my mean old lady comment? What the heck? Okay. Where is it? Hold on a second. I'm working. I'm trying to go backwards. Oh, Grumpy. Oh, I think it is. Is that Strega? Strega, did you come up with this? Okay, hold on a second. Strega. I wouldn't put it past the grumpy old lady. Okay, so Strega. Strega, where are you? Okay. Let me see where I first saw it because, Sandra. It was Sandra who said this. Okay, Sandra said, the grumpy lady, let me put this up on the screen. Sandra said, the grumpy lady told one of the volunteer searchers, she's in the water. She's in the water. Or said, does she know something? Well, I know there was a woman who was pissed off that she had the dog off the leash. I don't know if this is the grumpy old lady we're talking about. But that is an interesting point. All right. So it is possible, for example, if the dog were off the leash at the bench and the grumpy old lady comes over and goes, you got the damn dog off the leash again? And they have an argument and she pushes Nicola and Nicola flips off the whatever cliffy thing that is and drowns. Is it possible? It is. So they have to take a look at the grumpy old lady problem. Because all it takes is an argument and a push for something stupid shit to happen. And I think that's important. So we'll keep that in mind. What? She made sure she never walked the dog off the leash. That's not what I heard. I heard that she let the dog off the leash to go run in the fields. Not where people were, but in the lower field and the upper field. So that's what I heard, or read, or learned of. But was the dog found wet? No, the dog was dry. So the dog did not go into the river. So that did not happen. Oh, okay, here's a good point. Ryan says maybe she had a heart attack or a stroke and fell in. Now, there is something, again, we have to accept as possible. We don't think of these things, but my God, it can happen. She's in her 40s. Normally, you don't have a stroke or a heart attack, but doesn't mean you can't. She could have been walking along trying to put the dog back on the thing, and all of a sudden she goes, oh my God, and she starts staggering around and she falls. Possible. If they could find her body soon enough, they could do a proper autopsy, but we don't actually know that what would be happening here. Sure wish we had a good view of the slope. That push theory seems credible. Yeah, I can't find it. It might be there, but I just can't find it. But yeah, she could have been. She was not wearing boots. She's not going for a run. No, she wasn't running. She was walking. Loretta says, why would the killer say she's in the river if she pushed her in? Because she's a crazy old lady? Okay, again, since I am not a crazy old lady, although many haters have called me that. Okay, I'm just gonna make a small confession here because everybody knows I'm 67. I know people my age and younger who are freaking crazy old ladies. I mean, they get angry really quickly. They get incensed. They think they have the right to do whatever they want to do. They get vicious. I actually I have a friend. Well, she's an ex-friend because she walked her dog and she would say, hey, go for a walk with me. And we walk around like a lake together. Man, she would stop people and yell at them because they had the dog off the leash. And she was vicious. And she's now an ex-friend. I'm like, I don't think I want to hang out with you. I mean, I personally like dogs on the leash too, and I do not like them off the leash, but there's a difference between asking somebody to put the dog back on the leash and going berserko. She was a going berserko person. Would I envision her being able to push somebody because they didn't have the dog on the leash? Yes, I do. So, yes, there are crazy old ladies who would do that crap. Yes. Okay. So anyway, now, so that we have the possibility. Okay, so the suicide theory is pretty weak. Accident theory is very strong. Pushed into the river because somebody was angry with her. The homicide, an instant homicide, not a planned homicide, but just somebody got angry and did something and turns into a manslaughter charge, probably. Possible. Okay. So now, let's go to the other possibilities. Abduction and running away. Okay. Now, I want to bring in Benny's thoughts here just because I love Benny's thoughts. Benny said for suicide, if I was to kill myself, I would definitely not just jump into a shallow river. Touche. I would either shoot myself or throw myself off a cliff or a tower or even a bridge. And women, since she's a female, more likely that she would do pills. That's much more common for women. Shooting in the chest and not in the face, not in the head. Shooting in the chest. Sometimes hanging, because hanging, what I call soft hanging, not jumping off a chair, hanging from a rafter, but just bending looping your robe tie around the what do you call that thing in the closet, the rod in the closet. You tie it around there. You bend your knees. You pass out. You die. Okay, that's the way. It's more likely that a woman would do it. So a suicide. Okay, the accident. She says, and Benny brings up she could have been ill and fallen in. So that's possible. But he doesn't understand why they didn't find her body. But that interesting article shows us that there are possibilities. One thing we have to accept as professionals or as amateurs, that we don't know everything. I don't swim in rivers. I don't do river, searches. I don't know crap about the rivers. So I can't rely on myself to understand rivers. So then if you're doing work in this field, you want to talk with many experts to get a variety of opinions, because I've had wrong opinions from experts too and found out that they were incorrect. But you want to get all the information you can to start analyzing what is possible, because you do not know. You may not be a gun expert. You may not be a poison expert. You may not be whatever expert. We're never all of these things. And detectives are definitely not all of these things. They're detectives. They have to rely on accessing expert opinion and hopefully just not opinion, but expert explanation with support from the evidence. So that's useful. So he talked about this homicide. I love this. What homicide in general, right there. Benny makes a great point. Not a good place to commit a murder. No, it is not, as there are people around. Yeah, this is daytime, and there's people walking up and down this path. This is a real stupid place to commit a murder. But he did say it'd be likely to be done if he was pushed into the river. So this is the only scenario, and I think he's right about that. It's only scenario that makes any sense if it were homicide. That it was an angry thing that came out from some crazy old lady, and she did a push, and Nicola fell into the river and drowned. So I'm okay with the accident theory that she just was chasing the dog and fell over, or that somebody pushed her. Those two theories have some merit. So now the suicide theory, I say pretty weak. Now let's go to the abduction or disappeared by choice. All right. Okay, the abduction theory is a mess. Now, the husband does believe this could be true. Let's see if I can find where he said this, and I think this is in his interview. He said this. Mr. Ansell said this. I'm going to read you 2 paragraphs. Mr. Ansell explained that he and his wife had done the same walk for years, and you see the same faces every single day. And on the very odd occasion, when you see somebody that you know or you don't know, they're like, if somebody doesn't, you don't recognize them, they stand out like a sore thumb. So he says that people know each other, and it would be weird for a stranger or somebody who doesn't normally walk there to start walking around on this path, and people go, who's that guy? Now, mind you, I think he's exaggerating a little bit because a lot of people don't. I mean, yes, they recognize people, but if it's some strange guy just walking along, they're not necessarily going to be all that bent out of shape. However, he believes that he doesn't believe his his partner is in the river. He doesn't believe she drowned. He says they've searched for 2 weeks. She's not there. He believes she's someplace else. Now, I want you to keep in mind the someplace else that I'm saying, someplace else. My plea, he says, now is personally, I want every house, every garage, every outbuilding, the land scrutinized. I want it all searched. I want it all scrutinized, every piece of it. And you're not going to appease me with anything else. That's what I want to happen. All right. He wants the abandoned house to be searched. He wants every house here to be searched. He wants whatever the heck is over here to be searched. He wants every nook and cranny to be searched. That is rational and reasonable because he doesn't believe she's in the river, and he wants to find her, and he believes somebody there had to be somebody local because this is such a strange place. You're not going to have a trucker from far away, coming in from London, happen to roll through here and decide to kidnap a woman. No, if she was abducted, it would be here by somebody who knows the area. Now, the next thing, and I think this comes from Benny. Very little time frame. Yes, there is 13 minutes. They say 10. I say 13. I'm being generous. And he says the perpetrator would have to know about the surveillance cameras. Now, this is an interesting problem. Some did not work. What are the odds of him knowing which ones were working, which ones weren't? It was only after she disappeared that they knew which cameras did not work. All right. And also, the point you said, this was in my hangout, about not being able to have a vehicle nearby. Seems odds are slim regarding that scenario. Okay, let's take a look at this. Let me show you. There are a couple of areas where see if I can find it. 1 second. Oh, come on. There we go again. There we go again with my missing pictures. Yes, folks, sometimes I forget to click the picture, but sometimes, which people don't understand, is that they don't come over on, Lord, they don't come over properly. See if I can find it. Maybe it's this one. I'm going to see if I can bring it over. There we go. Okay. See how quickly I fixed that problem? Okay. A map of the area showing the location of the broken camera. So there's a path leading to Garstang Road, which is not covered by CCTV. That's a top right circle. And a riverside path leading from the Wyreside Farm, which is another blind spot. I don't quite understand exactly how much of a blind spot these are, but I want to point out there are blind spots because not every CCTV camera was working. So there are blind spots. Now, Benny is right. If there's blind spots, how would an abductor know where the blind spots are? That's a damn good question. It would be unlikely he'd know. But then again, sometimes abductors just abduct and they don't give a crap, and they just hope they get away with it. Maybe they're, they're covered up pretty well, so they figure even if they're seen, nobody's going to know who they are. All they have to do is get her out of this area. Where's the last place? Okay, it's from the bench. They have to get her someplace to their home, their outbuilding, wherever. And if nobody can identify them, they're not too concerned about the CCTV. They prefer it not to be there, but they can get away with it not, because they're psychopaths. So they want to do what they want to do. Now, however, let's look at how this would work. There is no place you can drive a vehicle. So how do you get Nicola from the bench and her doggie to wherever you want to take her? You have to do it on foot. You have to make her walk. Now, some people say, oh, they could have used a ruse. What ruse? Oh, there's a child over there who's... I'm going to say she's going to take her phone and her dog. They could say her own children, oh, something happened at school. She's going to take her phone and her dog. Hey, come to my car. Your children have been taken to the hospital. She's going to take her phone and her dog. She's not just going to leave them there at the bench. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, it only takes a second to take them with you, so you're going to take them with you. She loved her dog, and her phone would be her access to her, to the hospital, to her husband. Her partner. She wouldn't leave it. Her family. She would take them with her. So the only way somebody's going to take her from that location to some other location is with a gun. Maybe a knife, but I'm going to say a gun would be much more useful. Okay, so they put a gun to her and they say, okay, walk. Could that happen? Yes. All right. They say they don't want the phone with them. Why don't they want the phone with them? Because the phone is a tracking device. Now, if I were that sucker, you know what I'd do with the phone? I'd pick the phone up off the bench and I'd chuck that sucker right into the river, because it would look like she went into the river, and it would also kill the phone. I wouldn't leave it on the bench. I think that's a little weird. The dog is not tied up, and the dog would follow. That's obnoxious. So why isn't the dog tied up to the bench? But he could have done what I call a temporary tie. He could have wound the dog around something so the dog would be stuck there for a bit while he got away with Nicola. Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name now. Nicola. He could have done that. Okay, so let's assume he did that. Put a gun to her and said, walk. And he left the phone on the bench for reasons unknown, tied the dog up sort of, and the dog would escape, but not right away. Put a gun to her and said, walk. Where is he going to walk her to? It's a dang long way to someplace. Could it happen? Yes. So I'm in agreement with the partner. Check every outbuilding, check every house, check every basement, check whatever you can check it. But no one was seen with her. No one saw her on the CCTV. No one saw her with anybody on the CCTV anywhere. So it has to be, I would be looking at I would want like a grid search thing here. I want to know every single grid piece of little square where the CCTV did not work, where the CCTV was not functioning. So in other words, could he have gone this way? Could he have gone that way? What the heck? Because a person has to be off a CCTV. Even if he didn't care, he'd have to be off because they weren't seen. If he's going to take her someplace, it had to be exactly on a route that there was no coverage. And maybe there was a car waiting. He could chuck her into a car and driven off. Supposedly like 700 cars coming and going that day. That's a lot for a small village. But anyway, that's what they said. So could he have put her in a car and then driven away, and the car drives back by the CCTV, but they don't see who's in the car? Is that possible? Well, I'd be checking every square inch of where that CCTV is not working, where any route would happen, where somebody could abduct her. As unlikely as that is, because it seems a very bizarre circumstance. Now, there's one more possibility. Okay, so she's here this is where her belongings were found. Okay, so there's the river here. So that's where they thought she might have fallen in. But there's also an abandoned house. It's waist high here. Could somebody have put a gun to her head and said, walk? And we're going to see, again, it depends on how steep the thing is here. If it's super steep, it's unlikely that they're going to jump. Both of them are going to jump into the water and then go across here. And I don't know how steep the other side is. So you can't get out. You can't go over here to the abandoned house. The reason I'm saying this is, suppose there's no CCTV cameras this way, and somebody can get her across the water, then that would be one way that two of them, the abductor and the victim, could get across without anybody seeing them to an abandoned house. I don't know what's happening with CCTV this direction. It could be a vehicle out here, other stuff. But again, we're talking about, let's look at the thing. If the bank is like this and you can just jump into the water and climb up the other side, you're good. If the bank is like this, that ain't happening. What has he got to bring a rope with him? Go do some rock climbing. I mean, if it's like this and they can't jump off and then, this will be this side. They would jump off and then somehow get up the other bank. I have not got good pictures of that. So this is what, as an investigator, I would want to know. At that location, could that happen? There's also a location near supposedly a bridge, and I don't know which bridge it is, that has you can walk across. Is there CCTV from this spot to wherever that freaking bridge is, where you could walk across the water here and disappear? That's what I would want to find out. So if you're talking about an abductor, you have to have an abductor who has a way to move her from this location to another location. And I'm not so concerned about whether he knew where the CCTV is, but whether even if he were caught on it, he wouldn't give a crap. But because by that time he'd be out of the area. But whether he could even abduct her and take her to a location and not be seen. So in other words, because she wasn't seen, it had to be a route that he could get away with, even if he didn't know it. And that he could move her from this location to another location. So that's what I would be looking at. Now, mind you, if she was abducted, here's an interesting also possibility. She could have been essentially raped and murdered in a short period of time, for example, drowned, and then her body driven to a farther place down the river to a place where they wouldn't expect her to be at this point in time, and leave her far, far away. So by the time they do find her body, looks like she's been drowned in the river, but she actually was murdered earlier on, even maybe drowned, but not there, someplace else, and then her body placed into the river far, far away. So by the time they found her 3 or 4 weeks from now, 2 years from now, they can't identify what caused her death, and it looks like she's been in the water, and so it looks like she drowned. That would be a good plan for an abductor. Okay. That's the abduction theory. The last theory I want to point out is a Sherry Papini thing. Did she disappear of her own accord? Now, I know this upsets people because, according to everybody, she's a wonderful human being. And I have no idea. I don't know her. And Sherry Papini, a lot of people said the same thing about her, but she committed a massive hoax. She's a psychopath who committed what was known as Munchausen syndrome, behavior that's Munchausen syndrome. She harmed herself in order to get attention. That's psychopathy. Now, I don't know if this woman may be the best human being in the world, but the police must examine, and a profiler must examine the possibility that she walked away of her own accord. Now, is that possible? Well, it's got the same problem as the abduction theory. She has got to, well, she did all the, she made the phone calls and all that. It makes it look like it's a normal day. And if you were going to disappear, you'd want to make it look like a normal day. So I think that's perfectly reasonable. And then you have this moment, you look around, nobody's available, nobody sees you. You leave your phone on the bench so you can gain time to disappear because your phone is still at the bench and you're not. You leave the dog maybe tied up, badly tied up, so that he would be like unable to pull away, at least for a little bit. You know, I have no idea how you do that because I don't tie up dogs, but you could do that and keep the dog from moving for like 5 minutes or whatever and disappear. Again, you have to not be caught on CCTV. So would she have a knowledge of where she could do that? And then again, could she have jumped into the river and purposely and then crossed the river and gotten out and disappeared out this way? If she couldn't do it this way, is it possible? Is somebody waiting for her someplace where she knows how she can get away? They're waiting for her. Is it possible? It's possible. It's not overly likely, but it is possible. Now, let me introduce you to something that the partner, Mr. Ansell, said during the interview on Channel 5. I do not believe, I agree with Peter Hyatt. I don't find him deceptive in any way. I don't think he's involved in whatever happened. I think he's brokenhearted. But Peter Hyatt pointed out some interesting things. He said there's some points that he doesn't seem to be concerned about what she's going through. Like she might be suffering. He thought that was a little weird. I do too. And then he said this, which I thought was fascinating. Okay, let me tell you the setup. So in the show, let me show you. In the show, they have this guy interviewing Peter Ansell. Where is it? Okay, hold on a second. Okay, so this guy, I forgot who it was. Okay, I personally didn't like him as an interviewer at all. I thought he sucked. I'm going to tell you that, buddy. You sucked. You sucked because I thought what you were saying was unnecessary and kind of crappy. And you kept pushing things and I didn't like it. So I don't approve of what he did in this show. So there you go. Anyway, this is Mr. Ansell and the dog. All right. So, all right. So he's most of the thing I'm thinking, man, I feel sorry for this guy. I really do. And I still feel sorry for him. But he said something interesting right near the end of the show. And it made me scratch my head like this. So anyway, it's probably just the hairspray. Okay. All right. He said, okay, no, wait a minute. I forgot to set it up. So the interviewer says, and this again, you have to watch out for interviewers in these stupid media programs because I want to punch them in the face sometimes. They set things up so that you're put in a situation which you may not be comfortable in and how to answer it. So the question was, if you could get a message out to Nicola, what would the message be to Nicola? Okay, that's what he said. Here was the answer. Just how much I love her, how much the family loves her and need her, how well thought of and how much her friends love her and need her to come back. And we're never going to be the same until she's back. Just come home. Okay. I thought that was weird. I can't get away from that as being weird. Because if you don't believe she drowned and you believe 100% she was abducted, why aren't you saying, hang in there, Nicola? Hang in there. I don't know who has you, but whoever has you, God, whoever you are, please let her go. Her children need her. I need her. Her family needs her. Her friends need her. Please let her go. Nicola, hang in. We love you. We want you home again. The police are searching for you everywhere. We want you back. Please, whoever has her, let her go. That would have been my answer. Look at his answer. Just tell her I would like to tell her how much I love her, how much her family loves her and needs her, how well thought of, and how much her friends love her and need her back. And we're never going to be the same until she's back. Just come home. I have to wonder, is there something in his head that's saying maybe she ran off? Because he's not talking to an abductor. He's not talking to his wife as if she were captured. His partner, as if she were, imprisoned. He's speaking to her as he wants her to know that he loves her, the children love her, the family loves her, her friends love her, and they think highly of her. And I think that's an interesting point. It's like, who gives a crap how highly anybody thinks of you if you've been abducted? You can be the worst piece of crap in the world, but if somebody abducts you, I don't care what people think of you. You've still been abducted. But he sounds like he's trying to tell her, everybody thinks you're a great person. They think highly of you. Come home. That just blew me away when I heard this. I'm like, that sounds like he thinks she could have run away. And he's trying to let her know, we still love you. We still love you. And we'll still accept you if you come home. And that sounds Sherry Papini-like. And now I don't know. Maybe he's just tired. Maybe he's not thinking straight. But he's never put out any kind, if he doesn't believe she's drowned in the river, why does he has to believe she's abducted? There's only, in my opinion, you're either in the river or you're abducted or you're running away. So if he doesn't believe she's in the river, there's only the other two. She ran away or she's abducted. But he does ask everything to be searched. That sounds like he's looking at an abductor. But in this question, it sounds like he believes she might have run away. Now, why would you believe that? Because if you really, truly believe she's happy in her relationship, she's happy taking care of her children, she's happy in the community, she's happy with everything, why would you even begin to think she would have run away? And yet this message to her sounds like he's trying to convince her to come home. And I don't quite understand that. Now, let me point out one other thing. He also says this: the cell phone in the harness we think could possibly be a decoy. Really? Okay. An abductor is going to leave the cell phone on the bench and the harness as a decoy. In other words, stage something. That doesn't make any sense. It would be better to throw as a matter of fact, as I said before, it's better to throw the phone in the river. Looked like she then fell in and with the phone. Why would the phone be left there except that it gives you time to disappear? And a decoy is something you'd use to make people think something else happened. And an abductor doesn't need to have anybody think that. Just needs to get the hell out of Dodge. So I don't understand that. Now, mind you, I saw this later. Oh, no, that's not it. Okay, let me find the thing I found later. Because I want to give him a break as far as that goes, because sometimes what happens is, see if I can find it. I think the guy who did the search, the water search, and he's really anti her being in the water. Let me see if I can find this guy. Because he actually made that statement. And so I don't know whether Mr. Ansell is simply copying the statement from the guy who's the water guy. Where is it? Oh, let me find it. I had it up here, but it's now gone missing. Yeah, of course it's gone missing. But I'm just going to, I don't know where I went to. I can't find it. Anyway, the guy who does the searches, the water searches, said those exact words. So I don't know if he's just borrowing those words from that guy and they're all talking together saying this could be a decoy. I don't know why anybody would say it was a decoy. That's a stupid word anyway. It'll be staged. So the water guy's trying to say, it could have been staged by an abductor, but an abductor, I don't find would have done that. A person who goes missing, who wants to look like they went into the river, might leave their phone there, the dog there, tie up the dog partially and take off. And therefore, during that period of time, they could disappear while they look like they're still on the phone. It's more of a staging for a person who's going missing than it is of an abduction. So I don't know why he's saying that. I don't know if he just got that off of the guys who were doing the water stuff, who maybe not thinking of a very bright thing themselves. He's exhausted. He spent 2 weeks of absolute exhaustion. So that he would just mimic, just say, basically restate something somebody else said doesn't surprise me. So, but if it's a decoy, it's not likely an abductor. It's likely a person who's gone missing on purpose. So when you go back to this statement, I just like, what? That is the one thing that says to me, is there another possibility? Now, having said that, I'm going to say this one last thing before I go to your comments. Having said that, when people are under massive duress and they're trying to come up with something that's going to give them hope, he doesn't want to believe Nicola is in the water, because if she is, she's dead. He does. If he is a loving man, loves his partner and the children and wants her home, the last thing he wants to believe is she's really dead. And so she can't be in the water, because if she's in the water, however she got in the water, it would mean she's dead. So that only leaves abduction and going missing. He has mentioned searching on another interview. So that would theoretically be abduction. Maybe he's holding out hope she did run away. Because if she ran away, then maybe she'd come home. Of course, I'm going to tell you, dude, if she ran away, you got a Sherry Papini on your hands and you don't want to be with that woman. I'm going to say that right up front. That's a psychopathic thing to do. So if Nicola really did disappear on purpose, you might want to just get custody of those kids and keep away from her, like Sherry Papini's husband theoretically has done. But I don't know that's the reason. So it's either, so if the statement he made to come home as if she had on her of her own free will disappeared has two possibilities. One is there's more in her past that we don't know about, just like Sherry Papini, where everybody says, oh, she's so wonderful. Then we find out that she has had those behaviors of Munchausen syndrome throughout her life, but nobody admitted it at the time. So either Nicola, not her name properly, Nicola has had symptoms prior, which would give him reason to believe she might run away, plan this whole thing and run away. Either he has knowledge of that, or he's just desperately trying to come up with anything that would give him hope that she'd be returned home alive. And he's willing at this point to say, okay, maybe she ran away. Maybe something weird happened. I'm just going to say, come home, honey. So we don't know. And so here's the point about profiling. You take something like this, you can't ignore it, but you also have to put it in proper perspective. It could be this, or it could be that. So then when you're investigating, you have to then say, okay, he said this. Should we investigate further into her past, whether she has had Munchausen syndrome by proxy behaviors prior to this happening? We should check that out. We should also check out whether she really could have been abducted, for God's sakes. And we should check out all those places that he wants checked out. And he says, I don't want, dude, that's what has to happen. He says, I won't be satisfied with anything else. Check out every nook and cranny. Have we done that? Have we looked for this man's partner in every nook and cranny? Or have we just jumped to the conclusion that she went into the river? Have they done their due diligence in trying to see if there's something else that happened? And then if she is in the river, could she have been pushed? That's another issue. Was it a homicide as opposed to an accident? They have to check that out. So as a detective / profiler, you have to be open to possibilities and probabilities. And you can't just say, you have to listen for everything, look for everything, analyze everything to see where those missing links are, not because they're going to prove what happened, but because they can lead you to prove what happened. I don't know what happened in this case. I do not know. I have, there's four, the suicide thing doesn't work for me, but I believe she could have fallen in. I believe she could have been pushed in. I believe that somebody could have abducted her, although it seems very unique place to abduct somebody. So that's very low on my list, although it's possible. And that she could have just disappeared on her own accord. And the only reason I say that is because of his statement. But I don't know that his statement's not done in desperation. So there's a lot more that they're going to investigate. And there's a lot more that they just have to go down all these avenues. So if you believe that profiling is some kind of magical thinking crap, that I looked at this case and went, oh, I know what happened. That's foolish. No, I do not. I can only inspire investigation in certain directions more than other directions. If I were working on the case, I'm not working on the case. So what I say here means crap to the police. And anybody who says, oh my God, you need to get in with the police and the police need to contact you. No, they're doing they're doing their job. Okay. I'm doing this for educational purposes so you can understand things, how things work, how the police have to investigate. And if I were a profiler on the case, what I would be looking at with the limited amount of information I have at this particular moment. Now I'm going to go to your comments, see what you have thinking. And again, if you're new to the channel, please do like and subscribe because we need it. Or maybe it's just me. I love it when you say, we need it. I'm like, oh, I don't know anybody else is here. All right. All right. Let me see if I can check out your thoughts here. Wait, Michaela. This is concerning. I believe in Pat and unicorns. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or a diss. I love you, Michaela. So I'm going to assume there's humor behind that. The partner looks like Ben Affleck. I did not see that, but okay. Let's see. Cheryl says, I couldn't have left my children, but I can totally understand feeling that's a good option. Yeah, I mean, hopefully she's found safe. Now, it's not particularly a good option. It's not a good option in any way. Here's the thing. If she left her children on purpose and created the Sherry Papini hoax, she's a psychopath. That's not good for anybody. So you could find her and she'd be alive, but wow, is she somebody you want to hook up with, hang out with, have involved with your children ever in the future? The answer would be no. So in one hand, you think, okay, she could be found alive then and brought back to her family, but what kind of person would she have been? So I don't love that answer. But if that's not the answer, then she's probably not alive, which is much more likely. That she did have an accident, she was pushed in, she was abducted. All three of those don't come out well. I mean, the only thing that could be hopeful, in my opinion, as far as a, quote, good ending, will be that she was abducted and has been held in some outbuilding of some sort. And she's still alive, and they rescue her and bring her home to her family. That would be, she'd suffer psychological damage, but her family would have her home. And over time, hopefully she would, have a good, ability to survive what she'd gone through, because she still had her children and her partner. She could still get married. He said he wanted to get married. They were planning on that. And she could have her friends and her family back. So it would be a horrible, horrible moment in her life, but she might be able to overcome that. To me, that's the best answer, that she was abducted and she's still alive. That's my best answer. Anne says she could have had a manic episode and needs help. That's, and it's a good point. The question is there a reason she would have a manic episode? A lot of times we throw that out because we don't like the concept of a woman ran away like Sherry Papini, that she did it on purpose and is a psychopath. I don't know what manic episode she would have. It would have to be something like, I don't know what it would be. Let's say, for example, she had a stroke, and she didn't know. All of a sudden, she got confused. She didn't fall into the water, but she got confused and didn't know where she was and what she was doing. And she would wander into the village. Then at some point, somebody would find her. But a manic episode, she'd have to have a psychiatric history. I just don't think you just wake up one day at 40-some years old on a happy day, you're doing your job, you drop your kids off, you have a manic episode in the park walking your dog. I think it's so unlikely. I would tend to go away from that. This is true, Michaela. Victimology should tell a lot about past behavior and predicts future behavior. This is true. The difficulty is getting accurate information on past behavior, because a lot of times when you have a situation like this, you don't get accurate information. It may be absolutely accurate. She may be the greatest mom, the greatest partner, the greatest friend, the greatest worker, the greatest daughter, the greatest everything. And there's no reason for her to disappear. And she would never disappear. And she was abducted, or she fell into the water, accident, or pushed. And so, but you have to be very careful with that, simply because people often present somebody in a very good light, even if they're not. And sometimes they don't know. So that's why I brought up the Twitch thing. Because Twitch, everybody said he was the happiest, one of the most wonderful, loving, positive human being ever. And then he blew his brains out. I don't get it to this day. I mean, as a profile, I got no answer. I mean, I'm looking at this guy going, what the hell was going on behind the scenes? You can't just wake up one day and blow your brains out for no reason. There's got to be something. What the heck was it? What is somebody not telling the truth about? I don't know. And there's people say, person can be perfectly happy for 40 years of their lives and then just one day just do something and nobody knows. Or they're hiding all their mental instability behind some kind of mask. And I'm like, every single 24 hours a day, you cannot hide. I'm sorry. I don't believe that. I believe you can hide in public. You see me here on the channel. You don't really know me. No, I'm a pretty open book, but still, I could tell you that and I could be lying. But behind the scenes, I could have this disaster life And you go, oh, Pat Brown is always so happy and she's fun and and she's, who knows? Maybe I'm a miserable schmuck, How do you know? It's YouTube. And you go to my Facebook page and, is that true? Now, if you ask my children, if you ask my friends, if you ask my sister who knows me very well, would they tell you the same thing as you see here? I don't know. But in Twitch's case, everybody kept saying everybody who knew him said he was fine. I don't know, but it makes no sense that he woke up one day and blew his brains out for no reason. Something had to be happening. So when you're doing investigations and you're interviewing, you got to be really careful to try to understand whether you're getting the truth or you're getting a version of what that person has seen or has been presented with. It's tough. As far as we know, Nicola was a super happy human being and very satisfied with her life and loved her children and her husband. Her partner. And was having a normal day when she vanished. So that's why they lean toward accident. Or maybe she was pushed into the drink. That's why they lean toward that, because it seems like until that moment in time, everything was normal. So unless she planned very carefully to look normal to the minute she ran away, or until somebody just managed to abduct her, they lean toward she fell into the water, one way or the other. Oh, that's interesting. I never thought Robin Williams would take his own life. Robin Williams to me was a comedian, but a lot of comedians do have a lot of depression. They do. And that's actually true. So again, we don't know, but see, with Robin Williams, we don't know what's behind that. We only see him on stage. And Twitch, I only saw, on YouTube stuff and on television, clips of him on DeGeneres. So I don't know what really was happening in his life. And I don't, so you have to go to the family and friends, but even they sometimes, it's questionable. That's an interesting concept. Cleaning up after a dog, possibly had a poop bag break, went down to the river to wash her hand. Possible, but as far as I know, I think I really wish I had a picture of the riverbank to know whether she could have easily gone down to the riverbank. And one would think she would have footprints going to the riverbank. I just don't know again what the condition of the dirt was, whether it was muddy, whether it would leave prints. And then if it was a steep drop, she's obviously not going to be doing anything with that. So, I mean, when we go with poop bag could have break, one has to be very careful about not creating a scenario out of no evidence. We don't have any evidence that happened. So if you're profiling, you got to be careful not to say, aliens could have landed in that field, and then they could have, put sonar on. You know what I mean? We got to keep away from building a scenario that has no evidence to back it. And so that's the difficulty of this whole thing, coming up with that. Midgie says, I know the diving river expert chap dismisses the idea of her going into the water, but his team wasn't brought in until 2 weeks so after the incident. That's true. How well they did in the first part, how far she could have moved down the river. And if she's moved down the river here and they're still looking here, by the time they get here, she's here. By the time they get here, she's there, that kind of thing. Again, I'm not a river expert, so I'm talking crap. So, but I don't know whether they're always like a day behind. So I don't know. But the best answer still is she's in the river. But if she's not in the river, she was abducted or she ran away. And then we have those two issues. Mental break. Yeah, mental breaks, but people don't usually have mental breaks out of no place. And people keep saying that, but that's not true. I mean, mental breaks come from severe problems in life. And in spite of people saying this person can pretend really, really well every single day of their life, I've never found that true. That's what I say about a psychopathy too. It's like a psychopath can come for a job interview and he can get through the job interview and you're like, oh, he seems like a really nice guy. Or a woman could go on a date with him and for 3 hours, he seems like a really great guy. But if you actually had to live with that sucker, you 24 hours a day, you start seeing psychopath. And you may be ignoring the behaviors of a psychopath. You may be ignoring things because you want to stay in a relationship. But, then you ask a person later, well, he was manipulative. He did lie a lot. He did this, he did that. Okay. There were symptoms. There were signs. You just ignored them all. or you try to push them down because you wanted to continue. So when you have a relationship between two people and you have children in that relationship, the question is everybody happy as everybody thinks? And if they're not, usually there are signs. Whether they admit there are signs or not is another issue. And whether that person tells their best friend, their sister, their parents about any signs. I know when I got divorced, my parents were shocked. I've been married for 25 years. My parents liked my ex-husband. They couldn't believe it. Most people I knew couldn't believe we got divorced. They were like, what the heck? They were like the best couple ever. But I'll tell you, there were two people who knew. My sister, and my best friend. Somebody knew. So anyway, I have no idea. And we've heard nothing about anything that she returned to her vehicle, that she was seen at a bus station or a train station or any friend was involved. We have no evidence that she ran away. We have no evidence that she was abducted at this point in time. Cheryl points out something useful here. I really believe that the police know a lot more than they're saying here either way. Whether they really think she went into the river or they're saying that to make someone slip up. That is a good point. When you talk about police investigations, two things are true. And I'm going to be honest with you as a profiler how they go. Over here you have, they know more and they're not letting on because they are watching somebody. They don't want them to think they're watching them. So they say, oh, she went into the water, but they're actually watching a particular person they think abducted her. They might do that. Or they might not be doing that. They might be just telling the truth. We think she's in the water and that's the fact. We all think that and that's where we're going. And we don't have any place else to go. We think it's true. There's this other possibility where they're just not very good at what they do. That they have a belief and the belief is wrong. And they haven't done proper investigation. They haven't done due diligence. I've seen both of these things. I've seen all of these things. So when I've gone to work on a case, sometimes I walk in and go, well, damn, I totally agree with you. You've done a great job. I totally agree with you. On the other hand, I've gone to work on a case and I've said, oh my God, you've done a great job with you've done great crime scene handling. You know, you've made sure the evidence was protected. You've got great photos. You've got a video of the scene. You've got everything. You just don't have the right idea of what happened. You've got a completely wrong theory. And you went after that wrong theory. And that wasted all this time when you should have been going over here because here's what really happened. I've seen that. I've seen times when I've gone in and everything is just a freaking mess. I'm like, seriously? Okay. But apparently in this department, nobody had any training. Nothing was done right. That happens too. So I don't know. I'm not in that department. I'm not working with the police. They could be doing everything right. They could be, I don't know. I have no clue. Absolutely no clue. Let's see. Leslie says, I just learned about this. Hi, Leslie. On this hangout. In my humble opinion, it was a suicide feigning that went wrong or gone girl. Then an accident, fall, then an well, that's a lot of stuff there, Leslie. That's the problem. We actually, because we do not have much evidence. Let's look at the evidence we have. We've got a phone on a bench that gave her 13 minutes of time that was unaccounted for, which could lead to accident, suicide, abduction, running away. We have a doggie that's running around. I don't understand why the dog was not in the harness. Was it she was putting the dog back in and the dog got away? Or was the dog tied up in a way that the dog could get loose in a little bit of time? That was a quote decoy or a stage is what I would call it. And then we have simply negative issues, negative evidence. Negative evidence is where you don't have any evidence. There's these spots of negativity. It's kind of like a black space, like when if you're doing an art drawing, for example, you look at the negative spaces as well. So the negative spaces around whatever you're creating, give that form to the creation. So when you have these spots where you don't have CCTV, you don't have her on camera, you don't have anybody else on camera, you have these negative areas. Now the negative areas could mean that something happened in those negative areas we just don't know. That's what gets concerning, because we can't prove things that we don't have information on. But that can be used as a methodology to escape any kind of evidence. So there's no evidence of what happened. It can just be bad. It just could be luck. Good luck for an abductor. Good luck for a person running away. It could be just bad luck for the rest of us, that you're trying to solve the crime that we just don't have. We have these blank spaces, negative stuff. We just don't know. It's a mess. It's a very, very bizarre crime, and we just don't know. Let's see. Aunt Danny, it's hard to say. I did notice that the partner and the family are able to hold in their emotions very well. That's true. I didn't see the partner crying during the entire interview. Only Nicola's dad broke down at the end of the interview. It's very hard to say. Medication. Some people are medicated because 2 weeks has gone on. They're taking medication to survive. That can affect their emotions. 2, they've been through the emotions so many times they're just drained and they have nothing left to give. 3, the media people, like if they decide to only show certain points of a media interview, then they can leave out the part where you cry if they feel like it. Media is very, very manipulative. Don't ever believe everything you see on the media. Now, the Channel 5 had fairly long interviews, so at least that. The last media company that contacted me to do work on the Anderson Cotter case, and they wanted me to be the expert profiler on that case. One of my concerns was, I don't know how much media time you're going to give me. I don't know what kind of clips you're going to put there, and I don't know what your agenda is. I sent them an actual list. I said, here is what I will say on camera. I will have to, if you sign a contract that says I can say this entire statement, I'll do it. And they refused. So then my question is, what are they about? What are they trying to do? I'm going to say something, and they're going to cut that out, and then they're going to cut things in, and they're going to manipulate things so I look like I'm saying this when I'm not, or they're cutting out everything that's important. I don't know. So I won't do the show. So you can't trust the media and quite like that. Let's see. Yes. Okay. We say howdy here. Hi. If she left of her own accord, wouldn't it still make sense to toss the phone in the river? Yes. I thought of that myself. I really did. Really, I did. Okay. Yeah, you could. I would. Might have made sense to actually even throw. You could put the coat in the river. You could throw your phone in the river. You could throw the harness in the river to make it look like you were chasing the dog. You could throw things in the river to make it look like you actually went into the river. It would be useful for an abductor too to do that. Be sure she looks like she's in the river. Yes. However, here's something I want to have to pay attention to. Just because it makes sense as one methodology doesn't mean in somebody's head they don't have a different reason for doing something. Oh, if I leave the phone on the bench and leave it on the Zoom, I've got 10, 30 minutes to get away. They'll think I'm sitting on the bench all that time, and then they'll think something happened. Who knows what people think? Would the abductor think that? I think it's less likely for an abductor. An abductor wouldn't have a clue that the phone was even working. I think the abductor should throw the phone into the water more even than somebody running away. I think an abductor, if he grabbed her, would have grabbed her maybe even not even knowing the phone was on the bench. It just happened to be there. But he might want to make sure he saw the phone on the bench. He might have been happy to leave it there so that they couldn't trace where he's gone with her. So the phone being left on the bench makes sense for both an abductor and a person wanting to go missing. But I agree, there's no reason why they couldn't have chucked it in. Either one of them couldn't have chucked it into the water as, hey, look what happened. She fell into the water. But that doesn't mean everybody thinks the way we're thinking right now, because you're talking about a certain circumstance, so anything could happen. Now, Does this lead more to believe that she was sitting there with a phone next to her and the doggy ran off and she ran after the dog and fell in, or somebody got angry with her and pushed her in? I say that that's probably more likely. Okay, that it wasn't a planned thing, that phone was left on the bench. It's more likely, but I wouldn't be investigating all of it because it's really hard to say. Let's see. Now, I don't know why you find the partner creepy. Well, he seems to be very much caring for her and the children, but I don't know what you see in him that's creepy. But, this is the thing is, whenever you appear on TV under duress, you can come off in all kinds of ways that aren't necessarily, I think personally, I think it came off pretty well compared to some people who I'm like, definitely came off wrong. Scott Peterson, that guy came off wrong. Some of the Summer Wells family, they didn't come off very well. He came off, in my opinion, better. So I agree with Peter Hyatt that I saw. Now, mind you, I don't think he's responsible for what happened to her. But you could be right that maybe their relationship wasn't quite what it should be. Peter Hyatt did seem to point out that was possible, in the sense that he was saying that he didn't seem to be very concerned about, like, everybody run out and find her, or that worried about what she was going through, that he was more worried about the girls and what he was going through than what she was going through. That's a good point. But again, it's TV, and it's hard to say. It really is hard to say on a television interview. And so we have to be very careful. And that's one of the things the police asking? They were asking, hey, social media, shut the hell up. Because what happens in social media, because it's not educational channels, is that people run with this stuff and they actually go into action against people, starting to be hateful and vicious because we view things a certain way. And our view is not necessarily accurate, especially if we're not professional. We're certainly not necessarily accurate. So, then rumors are spread, and show after show after show after show is done attacking somebody. That's where it gets bad. So we have to be very careful not to bring that into. This is just an education channel. I'm trying to help you understand how things work, how you would investigate, how you would profile, how you would analyze the crime scene evidence. Not to say we should go after anybody. We should not. Let's say, I'm trying to figure out what this line. Wait a minute. I got to back up here. Sometimes I read a comment that's down here and there's an explanation up here, but I'm reading the comment going, see, this is where you can get things wrong. I'm like, who is saying what? And then I go up and I find there's a reason for things. Let's see. Daily walks in her routine. He stalked her and planned it. It could have been quick because he made sure it was quick. Who? We have no evidence anybody else was involved. We don't. And they have to look into abduction, but they don't have any proof. And even though she does this regularly, there's also people that it's a really weird spot I don't think it's a weird spot for someone to like pull her into an isolated little spot and rape and murder her. That I think is possible. We see this happening all the time on jogging paths. It's not like there's not other people on the path, but if you have a few minutes, you're standing on the path and you look this way and there's nobody coming. You look this way and there's nobody coming except that one girl. You can grab her, throw her into the bushes. You can rape and murder her and be out of there. And by the next time the next person comes, they don't see the body because it's off the path. That I believe could have happened, but her body is nowhere near there. So nobody raped and murdered her, which would be more sensible in that location at that time of day, although that time of day still is a crappy time of day to even try this. So somebody would actually literally have to try to abduct her out of an area where people are moving around, where she knows people, and she's got the dog and there's no access. You have to make her go a long distance to get her to a location where you could then hide her in your outbuilding or put her in a vehicle. It's a really weird location for anybody to abduct anyone. So I have to stick with that because I just don't come up with, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let's go. Let me go back further here. I would say if I were going for, I would go for disappearing more than I go for abduction, just because she had a more chance of getting away with that than an abductor would. But they have to look into both of those. I'm say the only thing that concerns me is that he talked to her like she could have run away, and for that reason I'd have to look into whether she would have, or whether he's just desperately hoping she's alive in any way, shape, or form, thinking to himself, "My God, did I miss something? Was she really unhappy and I didn't know it? Did she just run away? Please, maybe that's true, and she'll come back and we can fix everything." He may just be desperate. So you have to be very careful. You can accept that, you can look at what is said and look at the evidence, but you have to be careful to use this as an investigative avenue, not as an absolute. So as an investigative avenue, you say, okay, let's look at it. Let's do some more interviewing. Let's do some more checking on that. Doesn't mean that's what happened. And this is where criminal profiling, a concept of criminal profiling drives me nuts. They're like, "So Pat, what do you think happened?" And I'm supposed to say, absolutely. "Well, according to the evidence I've looked at it, I'm going to say she ran away." Now, I did say that was Sherry Papini. Why is that? Because the evidence was overwhelming, in my opinion, that she ran away. So I was good at saying, I'm going to go with 95% on this. In this case, I don't have that. And if I were working the case, I wouldn't tell the police an absolute on this. I would say, here's the different avenues I would look at. And these are the reasons. So because he said that, I would want to do more interviewing of him, the friends, and the family. Because of the possibility that one woman said, yeah, she fell into the drink and she was angry about the dog being off the leash. I want to be doing more interviewing of her to see if she pushed her. So you see, I'm not absolute on either of these at this point, because we don't have evidence so overwhelming in one direction. What if she had to potty? It's funny because I had another guy ask me this. He goes, because I've talked about how many men end up in the river because they have to go pee, and they're drunk. And when they go pee, they lose their balance and fall into the river. Women are, we do sometimes have no choice, so we're desperate. But the river, that is not a location she would have picked, in my opinion. There were bushes around and things like that. She would have just taken a dog and hid behind a bush if she had to, or she would have just gone back to her car, suffered all the way back to her car. It wasn't that far. She could have suffered her way, because most of us will do that. We're going to make it. Any woman who's here knows what I'm doing. It's like having a baby, I'm going to make it to the car. The guy will just say, I'm going to do it right there. And they will pee into the water, and they will pee when they're drunk in the water. Women, not so much. So I don't believe she went to the bathroom and fell off the cliff. So yeah, I'm that one I can't go with. Let's see. Okay, Mia says, I'm spitballing. Okay, police are all over the river, haven't found a body, so abduction or went missing on her own makes the most sense to me. But again, maybe they just haven't found her body yet, because the likelihood of her having an accident or being pushed into the river are much higher than her being abducted or running away. I would say 70% to 30%, but they had to pursue both. Now, I do think you don't want to have tunnel vision while you're looking in that river every single day. You should also be having your people out looking at all the locations and looking at the CCTV everywhere, looking for any way she could have gotten out of the area on her own or be abducted out of the area. You got to look at all of those things. You got to continue to have a proper investigation that covers everything. Melina said, but the reason we know she faked it was because she turned up 20 days later with the most ridiculous story. That's true, but actually, I think if you look back on my original statement on Sherry Papini, this is one time I can brag because I was right. I think when she disappeared, I didn't buy the actual disappearance didn't make sense to me. The whole way it went down made zero sense to me. And then when they found her and she came up with it, then she had her story, that really nailed it. But I didn't believe it when she disappeared. So, because there were things that just didn't sit right with me. In this case, there's not things that don't sit right with me. They're just it's some interesting possibilities. That's really, really different. Whoops. Molly says, mostly listening, we'll watch later. Okay. How easy is it to drop off the grid in the UK? It doesn't seem to be much evidence indicating anything substantial. No, there isn't. And that's why it's a big, huge mystery. And she's vanished and it's captured everybody's attention because nobody gets it. Now, her partner, he says, and I believe him, that it's a living hell every day because nothing makes sense to him. And he might be spitballing in those terms that maybe she did just go away because he might be desperate at this point because nothing makes any sense. He says he's in a nightmare. Can't wake up from, and I believe him on that. I mean, it clearly had nothing to do with her disappearance, but why she disappeared, how she disappeared, he can't fathom. And so far, we have no evidence to absolutely prove any particular theory. Now I'm going to point this out because a lot of people jump on me for this. She's an attractive lady, but I think she's a bit old to be a likely target for an abduction. I know it happens, but it seems mainly it's younger women. That is true. Usually it is younger women. She is pretty good looking and she's thin, which as I point out, usually if it's a heavy woman, she doesn't get abducted by anybody that's a stranger. And people don't like that, but it's true. So eat a lot of ice cream and you're overweight. Generally speaking, serial killers are like, and they go find somebody else. That's a fact. Okay, so yes, it's unlikely, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. Somebody could have an obsession with her at her age. It's possible because she is attractive and she's thin. And I'm sorry about all your body positivity people for obesity, but people who are psychopathic and criminal tend to like the skinny ones because they're trophies. Okay, so it's possible. Not probable, but possible. And more likely that she would have been a victim of just a simple rape and murder than somebody would have abducted her. So that's true. Shoves chocolate in my mouth. There's some advantages. Oh, Lord. Hey, life is, I always push about, life is a reality. And I do try to be very realistic about life. I mean, I have a little bit of a sense of humor about it because I've lived long enough to see a whole bunch of stuff. You go, never saw that coming, or who would think, No. Let's see what else you have to say here before I close up for today. I'm actually going to a lantern festival tonight with my granddaughter and my daughter. We're going to grandma, mom, daughter, granddaughter evening. My granddaughter, she's 8 years old, but she's obsessed with sushi. So I hope like heck when we get to the Lantern Festival, even though it's theoretically Chinese, that there'll be sushi rolling around there anyway for my granddaughter. So Fire Opal, you are correct. Trophies and also easier to maneuver. Yes, that is unfortunately my joke about abducting and even raping quite obese human beings because they're hard to drag away. They're hard to remove the pants from, especially if they're wearing jeans. It's like it could take you like 50 minutes to get them off. That's a reality. I don't know that myself. Okay. And then if you want to abduct the person and you have to carry them, if they're heavy, they're hard to carry, and then you put them in the trunk of your car. The smaller they are, depending on your vehicle size. Like I have a Mazda Miata, and let me tell you, an obese woman I can't fit her in there. That's a fact. So a thin, small girl might get in the trunk. So, or the boot, as you call it in the UK. And that's reality. And people don't like reality. They want to, I don't know, it's fantasy land, but life is like that. And psychopaths follow reality. I mean, they're sickos, but I mean, they have to do things that are practical and so and pleasurable. So you have a choice between a 17-year-old, 110-pound cheerleader-looking girl running down the bike path, or you can have a 240-pound, 5'5", 35-year-old. Okay, it's just the way it is. now I want sushi. Me too, and I'm going to get some, or something like maybe noodles. Maybe I'll have lots of noodles. I don't know. We're going to see. It's really cool. It's got all kinds of beautiful, huge light things, that are very, very cool for the Chinese New Year. So I'm looking forward to that. Well, thank you, Anna. I intend to have fun. I'm looking forward to it. Unless it's a Buffalo Bill type, which doesn't exist in the real world. So this is where you get stupid Hollywood crap. Ed Gein did skin a few ladies, but he wasn't skinning fat ladies. He was just skinning people, whoever he killed, which was just he didn't have a lot of ability to move out in any distance, so he just killed who happened to be near him, and he made use of them. So, yeah. So, we got to stay away from Hollywood, because Hollywood does not teach us how to think properly. They teach us so many ludicrous so many ludicrous behaviors, things that just make zero sense whatsoever. And you go, as a profile, I keep going, oh, nobody thinks that way. Psychopaths don't work that way. The FBI doesn't work that way, I hope. Yeah. So I like things that are more intelligent, than most of the Hollywood crap. Let's see if there's any other comments. I'm going to go back a wee bit, just to see if there are any more comments. Oh no, okay. Delphi is different. Now they have Richard Allen. He is the suspect. He is the guy who's been arrested. He's going to be charged. He's been charged. He's going to going to trial, hopefully relatively soon, so we can see what the heck's going on and what evidence they have. As far as the time frame goes, it's different. He didn't abduct them. He just moved them from A to B, which was a very short distance, into an isolated area. That's what I'm talking about. A rape murder is very common in a very short period of time, because you can just get them off the path. That's all you need to do. Take them to go down the hill to this location where you have privacy. 2 people is no big deal. It's easy to manage 2 people. So that he would kill 2 people rather than just 1 is no big deal. Yeah, that's in the middle of the day, which is more unusual. But this was a very large park, very, very, very empty. And if he had gotten to those 2 girls, if it's Richard Allen, whoever it is, you just call him the Delphi killer. If he had come across Abby and Libby at the bridge and looked, and there were people coming both directions, the crime just wouldn't have happened. That's all that matters. We don't know that if Richard Allen is the guy, or just call him the Delphi killer, if he were the guy, he might have been on that bridge every damn day of his life looking for that opportunity. And when he got it and he went, nobody's coming, down the hill. That's all it takes. So a moment of opportunity is great. So if Nicola had been found in a bush behind the little, whatever that little building was, that looks like it might have electrical crap in it. If she'd been found behind there, if she'd been found in the stream after being raped and murdered, like naked in the stream, I think 13 minutes is enough. But to take her from that location and move her away from that location without a car being available. If a guy pulled up in a van and grabbed her, I'm going with, hey, all you need is 13 seconds. But she was in the middle of this weird place. Let me put the picture back behind me again, because, I mean, look at this place. I mean, there are no roads. She would have to be taken across a field or taken across the river in order to accomplish this. So that's what makes it so unique. And why? And again, it's not just some guy pulling her into the bushes and raping and murdering her in 5 minutes, which I would totally think is possible. But then they would have found her body. The fact is, her body's not there. So her body's either in the river and way downstream, or she really did run away, or somebody abducted her in such an incredible way that she's someplace else. So I would still go with the chances of her being in the river are about, I'm going to go with 80%. The fact that her partner did give that strange statement that it doesn't seem like he's talking to an abductor, but he's talking to her and saying, come home, leaves me that little space of maybe he does believe she ran away. And for that reason, I would be checking that out. I would, because I'd have to. And I'd still be checking out abduction, although I can't see how it would be logical or how it would even work. So let me look at last comments, and then I'm going to get ready for my fun day. Let's see. Oh, just to point out, yeah, Molly's saying Richard Allen's attorneys delayed his bail hearing. Are they starting to doubt his innocence due to looking at more evidence? Molly, I'm going to say they don't doubt his. Sorry. Do you think defense attorneys will only defend somebody if they believe they're innocent? No, they will defend somebody to the hills, in spite of the fact they know bloody well they're guilty as all get out. They claim that's their job, although I claim I don't know how you do it. I believe in defending somebody with the evidence to defend them. But I believe if you're going to make a whole bunch of crap to defend somebody who's guilty, I'm thinking you're just as much of a piece of crap as they are. But that's just my opinion. So I don't believe they took the case of Richard Allen because they think he's innocent. I believe they took the case because that's what defense attorneys do. Not all, but many. Why are they delaying the bail hearing? There's all kinds of reasons that are possible. I don't know what more they have than the prosecution has presented. So we're going to have to wait and see. We're just going to have to be a little patient. Mia says, defense attorney's mantra, don't ever ask your client if they're guilty. That's probably a good point. No, I won't. Oh gosh. I'd like to know what Benny has to say. Wait a minute. Cheryl, did you come here late? Because I actually listened. I read what Benny had to say because Benny couldn't be here. He's having fun with his granddaughter, and so he's very. I love that fact. He's out having a good time. But he did comment, and he is highly. I'm going to say he found abduction to be slim. He found disappearing by choice, to be slim. Homicide to be slim, except I don't think he knows about the lady who might have pushed her into the drink. Suicide definitely slim. He's high on the accident. So that's where Benny's at. And in case you don't know who Benny is, we have in our patron group, the patrons who support this channel, we have some wonderful people who come here like we see today with comments and questions and all that. Benny is from Denmark, and he's called in a number of times on a number of cases. And I think he's a pretty good profiler in his own right. So I have a lot of respect for Benny and his logical thinking, his analytical thinking. So that's why I brought in his comments today, because I love Benny. I do. I love Benny. What? Oh, was it his daughter? Wait a minute. Wait. He's young. Wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, now I got to look. Okay, wait a minute. What? Wait a minute. Okay. Was it his daughter? Oops. How old is Benny? I forgot. Now I gotta go all the way up to the top, because up at the top, Benny told me exactly what he was doing and who he was hanging out with. Was it his daughter? Oh, he doesn't have a granddaughter? Okay, wait a minute. Hold on. Now I'm feeling guilty here. I'm painting him older than he is. It's a long way up to the top. I can't even get there. So many comments. Now you're just making me feel bad. So, Okay. Benny says, oh, teenage daughter. You're right. Teenage daughter. Benny just has a teenage daughter. Sorry, Benny. I know it's funny because I'm one of the few people who've seen your picture, and you do look quite young, but I didn't know if you were giving me a fake picture or not, because, I face up the crap out of myself. So you see, one of the things people do is they judge other people based on their own behavior. So Benny's a lot younger, has a teenage daughter. So have a nice time with the teenage daughter. Thank you for correcting me, Anne. Anne's, Anne's paying attention. He's young. Okay, he's young. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, that's it for today. I was planning to do this as a phone in, but I couldn't get enough people to phone in from the UK. I don't know where you all were, so I turned this into my weekend case instead, because I always do a case on the weekends. And tomorrow is the Super Bowl in the United States, and I'm probably going to get together with my family for the Super Bowl. And I was going to try to get in a show before the Super Bowl, but now that I've done this, I'm like, the heck with it. I'm just gonna take Sunday off and enjoy the Super Bowl, and maybe I'll even cook. What a concept! And so, thank you for being here. So this is the case file for the week. Usually I do older cases. I don't usually do these as ongoing cases, but this is fascinating, and I think there's so much profiling to teach here, so much crime analysis to teach here, and how things should be done. I thought it was worthwhile doing. And again, this does, do not be pointing fingers and going after people and all this kind of crap. But anyway, move the boxes. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to listen to you and myself and not leave the boxes between me and the bathroom, for God's sakes. You are a catfish? Fire opal? No. Okay, I'm going to explain. All my thumbnails for my shows, I look really better than this, okay? It's just because when I flip through my own shows, I really don't want to see me looking like me, because it's like, that's a horrible picture. That's a horrible picture. It's really unpleasant. But I'm going to say that once you click on the show, I don't have video editing. So, unlike, somebody like, let's see, who am I thinking of? Jane Fonda. Now she's in this new show, whatever this new show is she's on, and a new movie, and there's five ladies over 80. And I mean, I'm like, look, those 80-year-old women look better than me, and I'm in my 60s. So I'm going to say they have video editing. Along with the plastic surgery and the Botox, they have video editing. I don't have that during my shows. It's just, this is me. So, but in my thumbnails, when I'm flipping through, I personally do not want to see me looking like me. So I do tweak them a wee bit, so I look better. Yeah. But it hasn't been getting me any dates, so there you go. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Fire Opal. Enjoy the Super Bowl if you're in the US, everyone. Thank you very much, Michaela. Enjoy the food and the football. Well, it depends how well I cook, but I look great. Man, you haven't. When I look in the mirror every morning, I'm like, who the heck is that? I'm a realist. I'm like, I wake up, I feel 30, I walk in the bathroom, I go, oh crap. But I still have a good life. And I always want to tell people this. I've never, I was on TV. I was on TV for over a decade and a half. And somebody once said to me once, oh my God, Pat, you look so good. Who's your plastic surgeon? And I'm like, I think that's just called my hairstylist, the makeup artist, and good lighting. Because I've never, ever done anything. I've never done plastic surgery, Botox, facelift crap. Mostly because I'm scared of doctors. I don't like knives, and I don't like being put under. And I'm lazy, so I've never done anything. My entire people say, well, what's your face routine? I'm like, I take a shower and whatever. My shampoo runs over my face. I don't ever take my makeup off properly. I don't use any creams. And my face is not, believe me, I got, it's what it is. And I'm like, I have enough good things in life, friends, family, work, you guys, that I'm not really concerned. If I look 67, because I'm 67, that's fine. And when I'm 77, I'm going to look 77. I'm never going to look like Jane Fonda, no matter what I do. I'm not knocking her down if she wants to do all that she does, and it helps her make movies. And if they video the lines away from her face, they do all kinds of video work, and they can erase every line during video. And she looks hot at 80, whatever the heck she is. Bully for her. That's her life, and she's an actress, and so I'm good with it. But I'm too lazy to do all that crap. I'm too lazy. You should see how we look. I'm a hot mess. It's too much work. Uh, oh, Michaela, that's so cruel. Buy Pat's book so she can get Botox and plastic surgery. No, after you send me buy all my books, I can get Botox and plastic surgery. I'm probably going to be somewhere nice in the world, enjoying the money and still looking the same way. That's my plan. Sally says, thanks for all that about makeup. I usually wear mine to bed. I'm too lazy. I'm a horribly lazy person. And, I have to say, one of the biggest problems I ever have is like I wear it to bed, and then I'm like rush out to the store like Dunkin' Donuts, and I'm like driving up. I'm like I look in the mirror, and I'm like, what, I have a black eye? I'm like, oh, that doesn't look good. Oh my goodness. Don't do a Madonna. Well, Madonna now looks like an alien, but she's a young-looking alien, so maybe it makes her happy. So what can I say? Hey. Anyway, it's always good to have a laugh after sad stuff. And then again, I say to everybody, what this show is about something sad and horrifying. And we hope that, I don't know what the answer is going to be. I don't think it's going to be good. There's no good answer to this crime or this incident. No matter what happens, literally the best thing I can come up with is she was abducted and she's going to be found alive in somebody's shed and brought home to her family. That would be my favorite one. Even if she had been sexually assaulted and tortured, she could still come home to her family. I'd go with that one. Horrifying as it is, that would be my top choice. Every other choice after that sucks. An accident is sad because just because bad luck put her, in the river, and her family lost her, and she lost her family and her life. Somebody pushed her in the river. Same thing. It's a homicide, and then she's the same thing has happened. It's horrifying. If she ran away and did this kind of thing to her family, community, children, she's like Sherry Papini, she's a psychopath. That's not a good ending. So my only good ending is that she was abducted and somehow she's still alive and is going to be returned to her family. But other than that, it's not looking good. And the chances of her being alive right now aren't good. So it's a very sad situation. And yes, during my shows, I do use a lot of humor, and it's a way that you can survive in this world and recognize reality, but also recognize that we try to still get through the world. And I wish the best for the partner, her children, her family, her friends. And I hope they come to a conclusion soon, because it is a very bizarre case, and it's hard to understand what happened. And the most likely ending is that she somehow ended up in the river, and they just haven't found her body yet. That is the most logical of everything that there is. So anyway, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. And I'll be back with the hangout during the week, and enjoy the football. Which in the U.S. is not soccer. Enjoy American football for the Super Bowl, which is Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe, and have a fun time with your family, and go Kansas City Chiefs. Anyway, see you soon.